Hello, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Leticia. I'm a bodybuilder, online fitness coach, and a business owner. And today we are going to be talking about the mindset shifts that need to happen when you're actually trying to make life lasting changes. So, if you have noticed, I am in a very empty room. We are in the process of getting this room together. We are just now renovating this room into our home office slash posing room slash check-in room. And I'm so very excited. So I promise eventually that wall back there will not be so empty. But until then, bear with me because this is what we're working with and this is what we got. So, to kind of get into the weeds of what we're talking about, we want to really, really nail down the mindset shift that it takes in order for you to make life lasting changes. Because a lot of times, what I hear when a client is onboarding, when I am talking with somebody who's thinking about making a change, one of the biggest things or one of the first questions that comes up is, how much am I going to have to give up? Or what in my life is actually going to have to change? What sacrifices am I going to need to make in order for this to be successful? And what we need to do first and foremost is switch that mindset, flip the switch, and think about things from a different perspective. Because when we really think about the long term goal, it's very important to think about the person that you want to become, the person that you are going to be transforming into along this journey. Because I promise you, the person that you start as is not going to be the same person who ends this journey and who is transforming along the way of that journey. So rather than thinking about this as sacrifice and rather than thinking about all of the things you have to give up in your life, think about every single step of the way of becoming the person that you want to become, because that person is going to be a completely different person than you are right now. I understand on the surface, sometimes it's really hard to be able to envision the person that you are trying to become, but think about all of the things that that person would do. Think about the habits that they would have. Think about the non negotiables that they would set. Think about the standard that they would be holding themselves to and how that differs from where you are right now. Because this will take some form of discipline, this will take some form of change. This is going to take work, but it doesn't need to be terrible along the way. And we don't need to see the change as negative. I understand that change can be scary. I understand that a lot of us are coming from backgrounds where change means something negative. And that is something that I've experienced in my life as well, where when I was younger or when I was growing up, change didn't always mean a good thing. But now that we are adults, now that we are fully in charge of the decisions that we make and the path that we're paving for ourselves, the direction that we want to take our life, it's very important to remember that every single decision we make is compounding, and every single decision that we make along the way on this journey is going to take us from point A to point B. So if you are still stuck in the person that you were when you first started this journey, if you bring that person along with you on the journey, honey, she's only going to hold you back. One of the biggest things that I have learned along this journey is how to take care of my body in a way where my body gives back to me. I was somebody who's coming from a very toxic workplace, and I was working 12 hours a day. I was working 6 days, 5, 6 days a week, depending on the week. Some days I would stay late, some days I would come in early, and I didn't have a great leadership or management relationship. I was in a line of work. I used to work in an emergency veterinary clinic. I was coming from a line of work where we were constantly pushed, we were constantly stressed, there was constantly things going on that were out of our control. There were many days where I skipped my lunch. There were many days, like I said, where I'd come in early, I'd stay late. And the person that I was during that job, I didn't like her. She was very negative. She was very toxic. There was a time when I didn't get along with some of my coworkers, and as a person at my core, that's not me. The best way forward is going to be to understand that the person you are now is going to change and accepting that change is a part of life. We are not meant to stay stagnant. We are not meant to be the same person we were 10 years ago. If I was the same person that I was 10 years ago, we would have a problem. We really would. We are meant to grow. We are meant to evolve. We are meant to take every single experience that we have and take that with us on this journey, learn from it, and grow from it. It's never too late to become a better person. It's never too late to love yourself. It's never too late to put more effort into yourself. It's never too late to change your standards. And I think that that's something that took me a long time to realize is what you accept from other people is going to be directly reflected in what you accept from yourself. The first step is changing those standards internally. I have extremely high standards for myself, and that has bled into the way that I expect other people to treat me. That bled into the way that I allow others to treat me. And the way that you change those standards, the way that you raise those standards internally with yourself is you keep your word. When you say that you're going to do something, you need to follow through. And if it's as simple as starting very small, if you are somebody who is struggling with being able to keep your word to yourself and keep your promises to yourself, start with the smallest thing you can possibly think of. Okay, brain, I am going to drink some water. And then that's you following through. It doesn't have to be super complicated in the very beginning. If you need to start at the very bare basics, the very bare minimum, that is totally fine because we all start somewhere. But the biggest thing is going to be to teach yourself that you will follow through with what you say. You keep those promises to yourself. You raise that standard internally because then it bleeds into every other relationship in your life. Another really big tip that I have is switching your vocabulary, not just internally, but also the things that you say and the way that you say them. Rather than saying, I have to do something, I have chosen a phrase that reflects choosing to do that thing. So rather than saying, I have to go do cardio, I will say something as simple as, I'm going to do cardio, or I choose to do cardio, or I have cardio scheduled today. It doesn't have to be super deep, but just changing that small verbiage or that small phrase from I have to something that I choose to do. And the reason that I choose to do these things are because they make me feel good. I don't have to eat clean. I don't have to track my macros. I don't have to eat healthy. I eat that way because there's a direct correlation with the what I put in my body and the way that my body performs, the way that my body functions, the way that I'm able to show up in my day-to-day life, whether that's for me, whether that's for work, whether that's for my friends, whether it's for my family. And I've heard the phrase, Ticia, you're so disciplined. I wish I could. But at some point, eating healthy, working out, doing my cardio, getting 8 hours of sleep, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, taking my supplements, hydrating myself, all of these things were things that I learned along the way, and they don't feel like effort anymore. They are just a part of my life. These are habits that I built into my life. I get it. I'm a bodybuilder. My standard might seem extreme to some people, but I cannot even begin to tell you how much my life has transformed with more structure. I feel so much safer in my body. I feel so much more free by having structure. Structure isn't built to restrict you unless you have that mindset. The structure that I have built into my life helps me stay accountable. It helps me show up for myself. I am very much a person who needs standards and a roadmap and things that I can check off of a list because that's just how my brain works and that's what works best for me. But most people that I know work really well with structure as well. If I know exactly what is expected of me, I am so much more likely to be able to show up. I have no problem checking those boxes, getting it done because I have the structure and because I have the standards. And because I know my standards and I know what to expect from myself, I trust myself more. And then I expect those things from everybody else around me. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, my challenge to you is to write some new standards for yourself, write some non negotiables, start small. And like I said, if you need to take a step back and you need to start from the very, very beginning, the first step to follow through is to tell yourself that you are going to do something and then you do it. And then you build off of that and you continue to do that until you're able to build up to the larger habits in your life. because that is what follow through looks like. And that is how you build trust in yourself. And then that is how that trust will be expelled. And that is exactly how you start to raise your standards and you expect those same things from every other area of your life.